So what you see on the screen is the Azure console, where it has got a dashboard on its own, and you will be able to see the virtual machines, the networks, load balancers and SQLs and everything that you've created so far in this dashboard. Although for you it may be just empty, but moving forward, as you start creating resources, you will see them on the screen. Now, as we know that the first
Okay.
thing that we gotta create in any network or in any environment is network. Without network, nothing exists. So we have to first go ahead and create networks, right? So with that, if you click on left side, now here you will see the list of services or the service offerings that you can create in Microsoft Azure. In this list of services, we have to go and pick up something called as virtual networks, right? Now here you'll see the list of networks that you have created. In your case, it will be
Hmm.
empty. If that is the case, you have to go and click on the add button on the top left hand side. Now here's the add button. Now when you click on the add button, you'll get a new blade, also called as a form. I'm just waiting for that. But there are a couple of things that we have to keep in mind here. The form that we fill up has the default values. So we need to understand what is /24, what is 10.2.0.0, and what does that mean? Why do we have /24 out there, right? So those are certain conceptual things that you will understand once we have knowledge of networks. So let's take a step back and park the creation of virtual networks for now, and we'll understand how traditional networks work. So we'll go back to the drawing board and understand the IP addressing scheme, the subnetting, the host ID, and the network ID part of it. So I'll go to drawings.google.com and create certain pictures here. Maybe write as well as I draw pictures. This is still picking up. Okay. So as you know, there are various classes of IP addresses, and you must be aware of them. There's classes of IP addresses are class A, class B, class C, and then we go on to D and E as well, right? So you must know what classes of IP addresses are, and I would like you to go ahead and refresh just in case you're not able to recollect. Now, what we have is here is an example of an IP address on the screen, which is 192.168.30.5. And let's say there is another machine in the network which has a similar IP address, which is 192.168.30.40. And they will have a subnet mask as well. Let's say the subnet mask is 255.255.255.0. And you should be able to figure that out when you go to your machine and do IP config, and you get these details like IP address and subnet mask. So what we're trying to understand here is the importance of subnet mask and how two machines in the network communicate with each other and indirectly send packets and send frames to each other for further communication. So subnet mask of the second machine, which is machine B, is also 255.255.255.0. But as we know that computers do not understand these numbers. Well, they do, but they do not talk in terms of decimals. They talk in terms of binaries. So let's go ahead and convert these decimal numbers into binaries and see how two Ethernet adapters will actually do mathematics to convert your numbers and then get into a conclusion and see if two machines belong to the same network or not. Well, let's try to convert these numbers 192 and 168 etc into binary numbers. I'll use calculator here to do that. And when I type, this is a calculator that comes with your operating system. So I just typed Windows R and CLC, and I hit enter. So I get this big box, and I then went to the programmer mode. And when it's at 192, you get this. That's the number. That's the binary number. So that's something wrong here. So 192. So 192 is 11000000, right? That's what we got. So let's go type it in here. All right. What is 168 then? Go to the same thing here, and that will be 168. It will be 10101000. So we'll go type that in. 1010. Right. 1000. Then you got 30. And 30 is that. Copy it. Just paste it here. And it must be an octet. So it will be 1, 2, and 3. Okay. And then 5 is 101. So I'll put 5 zeros, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 101. So what you will notice is that you've got 8 placeholders here. 2 of them are on bits, and remaining 6 are off bits. And then you got another 8, and then another 8, and another 8. So in total, you got 8 plus 8 plus 8 plus 8, which is 32 bits. And that is exactly why IPv4 is 32-bit addressing scheme, whereas IPv6 is 128-bit addressing scheme. Alright? Now let's do the same thing for your subnet mask, which is 255.255.255.0, which will be 255 will be on all ones, which will be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 dot 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 dot 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 dot 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Right? Any questions so far?
No.
Rajesh. Okay. So I'll do the same thing for the other machine. Yeah, I just wanted to check if you have any questions, Rajesh. Please ask, or you can put your question in the chat. So let's do the same thing for the other machine as well. Now, thank you. Now we got 192, 168, 30, right? So I'll do the same thing. Now we got half answer or half of the puzzle solved here. We already did that, so I'm going to do the exact same thing. 5, 6, 7, 8, and then that will be 10101000 dot 060111110 dot 000010. Oh well, 40 will be something else, right? Well, 40 is gonna be 40 will be 0010 and 1000 0010100, right? Then you do the subnet masking as well, so you'll know that subnet mask is all ones, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 dot 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 dot 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 dot 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Awesome. Now, in electronics, there is something called as an AND operation. So anybody from the electronics or computer science background will know this. And AND operation. AND operation is nothing but multiplication, right? So when the value of A is 1 and the value of B is 0, the AND between 1 and 0 is 0. And the value of A is 0 and the value of B is 0, then the AND of A and B is also 0. The value of A is 0 and the value of B is 1, then the AND of A and B is 0. The value of A is 1 and the value of B is 1, then the AND of A and B is 1. So that is multiplication. Right? Now we try to move forward and try to do the AND operation of this and this. What we'll get is, go. Why does it happen? Alright, so what we get here is 1 and 1 is 1, 1 and 1 is again 1, and you got 0, so if I multiply that with anything, you will get zeros. Then you gotta do that 1010100 dot 0001110. Then here you'll simply get 8 zeros because you're multiplying the IP address with the subnet mask, so you get everything as 0. And this is the output of machine A. And here, once we get here and start doing the AND operation of this and put it here, you'll get 1 1, right? And then you do this, which is 1010100 dot 0001111 dot, and then right, and this is output of machine B. So what you will see and notice is that the output of machine A and machine B is same. Right? Let's check once. The output of machine A and machine B is same.
Yes.
So regardless of what IP address you keep here, you keep 192.168.30.50, 30.60, 30.80, 30.90, 30.255, whatever, the output will always be same. So the governing factor is your subnet mask. So as soon as your subnet mask changes from 255 to, let's say, 252, then the output will change. And when the output changes, it means that they are in a different network. Look at this. The subnet mask is different, and hence the network is different. So that's how two machines will figure out if they are in the same network or not. If they are not in the same network, then they have to then contact the default gateway. The default gateway sends the traffic outside the LAN. And that is the whole reason why you need a default gateway. Default gateway is not required for traffic which is routed within your LAN. Right? Are you good so far?
Yeah.
Alright, now let's take this knowledge forward and build some diagrams here. And that is your firewall. And then let's say here is your web server, which we will call it as timesheet. And then there is another machine which is your laptop, and here's your laptop, right? Now from here you have to type http:// every day. My question for you is, what port do we need to be opened up on the firewall?
Port 80. 80.
Sorry.
80.
Right. So we need port number 80 TCP opened on the firewall. So how do I write rules on the firewall? I got to write rules, and the rules will be something like source, destination, port number, protocol, IP. Now, source, destination, port number, protocol, status, and remarks. So your source will be the IP address of your laptop. Destination will be the IP address of timesheet server. Port number will be 80 that you allow here. Protocol will be TCP. Status will be allow. And remarks will be the change management number or the name of the person or the team that requested to allow the rule on the firewall for future references. Now the question is, well, that was simple. Now the question is, what if you had 200 servers like that? What if you had Millions of servers, not million, but literally, but you got lots and lots of servers here. What would you do? Would you go ahead and write 200 rules here? The IP address of this, and the IP address of this, and the IP address of this as source. So you're gonna write 200 times?
It would be one rule for a VLAN.
Right. So what? How will we represent that?
Mhm. So all these source into one network with the network address like 192.168.30.0.
Right. 30.0, and then
That will be the source.
30.0 is one IP,
Okay.
but I want 200 machines. 30.1, 30.2, 30.3, everybody.
So that's where the subnetting comes into picture. /24 and this.
Right. Exactly. You're on track. That's it. You hit the nail there. So we have to do some kind of subnetting and say that all of this belong to a particular CIDR notation, which is CIDR. What is a CIDR notation
Mhm.
of the entire network? The CIDR notation of the entire network will be a combination of your IP address and the subnet mask. Now in this case, you have 192.168.30 as the network ID. This part is the network ID. 192.168.30 is the network ID
Mhm.
because you have all the on bits in the subnet mask which are blocking the first three parts of or first three octets of the IP address, which is 192.168.30, which is actually constant. So you can go ahead and type in here whatever your constant is. My constant for all the machines in the network will be 192.168.30, and then I will say dot zero and then put 24. Now this 24 is the number of ones that you have in the subnet mask. If you count here, you got 8 ones here, 8 ones here, and then 8 ones here. So I've got 24 ones. So when you write this on a piece of paper and give this to a network guy, he will understand that there are 24 ones in the subnet mask, and then 24 ones in the subnet mask means my subnet mask will be 255.255.255.0. Thereafter, I can go from my IP addresses will start from 192.168.30.0 through 30.255. So my IP addresses will go like this: 192.168.30.0, 192.168.30.1, 192.168.30.2, and then I'll go till 192.168.30.255 till the time I get all ones. But 30.0 is not assigned to any computer because that is a network ID, and 30.255 is not assigned to any machine because that is a broadcasting ID. So remainder what we have here out of 256 IP addresses is 254. Now what you get here is 256 IP addresses minus 2, which will be 254 IP addresses, which can then be assigned to the devices on the network. Is that clear?
Yes.
Rajesh. Rajesh. Okay. All right. In cloud computing, you do not get 254 IP addresses with /24. I'm saying cloud computing
Mhm.
because in Azure or AWS or Google Cloud, nobody's going to give you 254 IP addresses with /24. They will deduct
Mhm.
minus 3, which are then becomes 251. So you lose 3 IP addresses there when you do 254, when you do /24. If you ask me why, in cloud, we do not have to set up a DHCP server. In cloud, we do not have to set up a router. In cloud, we do not have to set up a DNS server. The 3 IP addresses are assigned for these 3. I hope this is clear.
Yeah, so the 3 IPs are DNS, DHCP, and router.
Yes.
Right?
Gateway, yes.
Okay. Okay.
Okay. Super. Let's go and take this knowledge and try to build some data centers here. I'll say file, new, and then drawing here. So let's say we have to build a data center from scratch. We got nothing. We got a blank slate. We got an empty room. The first thing that you got to do is go ahead and buy a public IP addresses. Buy a public IP address from your ISP, and then you'll say that's my data center. And then you'll go ahead and contact your ISP and then get, just drawing some diagrams here, get an ISP from him, and the ISP then gives you a public IP, right? Now you have a public IP. Super. There are scenarios where you would like to have segregated or isolated subnets. You really need to have isolated subnets. When I say isolated subnets, it means that within my network, I don't want computers to talk to each other. In that case, you may have to do subnetting. So this whole thing is a representation of the network, and you'll say all my machines that I have in my network must get an IP address of 192.168.0.0/16, and that is the entire CIDR block for my network. Then I will have my own subnets as well within it, and they are isolated sections again. And here are the isolated sections. You got, in this case, I've got 2 isolated sections. This is one subnet, and this is another subnet. This is subnet 1 and subnet 2. In this subnet, I will have a CIDR block of 192.168.30.0/24, whereas the CIDR block of the block subnet B will be 192.168.40.0/24, right? That means in this subnet I can have 251 machines. In this subnet I can have another 251 machines. But in this entire network I can have 65,000 machines, because 192.168.0.0/16 has a subnet mask of 255.255.0.0, and that means I can have 65,000 machines there. Are you with me?
Yeah.
Right. So that's exactly what we're gonna create in our Azure as well. And we used to do that in traditional networks. We used to do this in traditional environments. Let's go build some of these in the cloud. For that, let's go ahead and create a VNet in Azure. So to do that, I'll click on Add, and no, each part is called as a blade. Each block is called as a blade, and I'll give it a name. Please follow your naming standards and naming conventions before you go ahead and start creating something. Right? Organizations have built guides, and naming standards and naming conventions are followed. So I will create a VNet following certain naming standards. Naming standards have geographical region name, etc. So I'll give it name like LAB. Right now I'm in Gurgaon, so I'll say put GUR, and then I'll say VNet. Somebody who looks at it will know that I've created a VNet in Gurgaon and it's a lab VNet. As per my diagram, my address space here for my entire VNet is 192.168.0.0/16. And when I do tab, it will calculate the whole thing. But looks like I already have a VNet with that space, so RSP ACCGURnet01 has that, so I'll just change this. There's a conflict here. That should work. So I'm creating an address space with that IP, giving a subnet name, and this one will be public subnet, and this one will be 192.167.30.0/24. Keep in mind that you cannot have overlapping subnets. Number one, you cannot have overlapping subnets. Right? That's one thing. Keep always in mind. You cannot have overlapping subnets. What does that mean? It means that let's say you got 192.168.40.0/24 as a subnet. You cannot create 192.168.40.0/28 as another subnet, because the IP addresses that we have here are already part of this. Second, the range of IPs in subnet mask must be in the same range as VNet. What does that mean? My VNet range is 192.168.0.0/16. Now I cannot create a subnet which has 10.30.40.0/24. No, I cannot do that. It must be in this series only. These are two things that you should keep in mind before creating a VNet.
Okay.
So it lets me create one subnet. Anytime you're confused, you got these exclamation icons there, which is I will help you understand what that is. Now I will go ahead and create a resource group. Now what is a resource group? Resource group is a classification of your resources that you create in Azure. Over a period of time, you will create virtual machines. You will create load balancers. You will create web apps. You will create monitoring solutions. You'll do disaster recovery. And there's so many things that you're gonna build and create, right? So we must have some classification. So let's say overall I've got 25 machines, out of which 5 belong to the healthcare unit, another 10 belong to the administration team, 2 of them belong to the sales team. And after like 5 months, I want to know and get this report of how many machines belong to which business unit so that I can charge them back. And this can only happen if I start categorizing them now and start tagging them, right? So that is nothing but a resource group. Well, I'll create a new resource group and give name like all my Gurgaon, Gurgaon, Gurgaon machines will be inside my this resource group. So tomorrow I'll know that these machines belong to Gurgaon, or these resources belong to this particular region. Yesterday you saw that Azure has so many regions around the world, but this is exactly what the list is, right? So you can pick up and say, hey, let me go ahead and create in um, where West India. Let's pick up anything, okay, and then create it. That's it. So your first VNet is created. On the top right hand side here near the bell button, this is nothing but a notifications icon where it will tell you what's going on, right? Let's wait for that to finish. And sometimes it takes a lot of time as well, so you don't have to worry. Just go ahead and refresh the page and you should see it, right? Now we have it. Look at this. Lab GUR VNet is right there. And then we can look at the subnets. We have one subnet here already. You can create multiple subnets by clicking on this plus icon and then type, this is my private subnet, and I want 192.167.50.0.0/24, right? And then say okay. And that will create my subnet. Companies have selected locations for their data centers when picking or randomly they choose. Well, they pick up their data center depending on where they want to physically host their machines. Now, if I am hosting a virtual machine in this VNet, that means that my virtual machine will be created in West India. And then within that, if I create a VM inside this subnet, one of these subnets, let's say if I create in public, that means that it will be creating an IP address, or then the machine will have IP address in one of these ranges, like 192.167.30.1, 30.2, 30.3, through that, right? So when companies start creating their data centers, they just pick up something which is closest to them to reduce the latency. Now, let's go ahead and um, create a VM inside this, right? So to do that, I will click on this icon and then go to virtual machine section. I go to virtual machines and then click on add. I hope we are good so far. Yeah.
I want I want a bit the public and private network. Why we have created private network? Just we have created a separate network, a second network.
Yes, I can create multiple networks here. Which is, let's say, go to virtual networks and then go to this one and then subnets. Yeah. So your question is private, right? Why do I create a private network? I just named
Yeah.
it as private.
Yes.
Name, just giving it a name private,
Okay.
giving it a name public doesn't make them public or
Okay.
private.
Okay. Those are just given names.
Just the name, that's it.
Okay.
So let's go ahead and create a VM. So I'll say, whenever you get this kind of error messages, it's because of the bandwidth. I'm in a very low bandwidth area. Uh, okay, and then we scroll down. Now, as soon as you click on add, you get a lot of options here. You get whole bunch of operating systems that you have in the world today. So if you select this, you can create Windows servers. You select this, you can create Linux servers. Select this, Windows, you get Ubuntu server. You select this, you get a Windows server plus that has SQL installed on it. When you select this, you get Windows server plus SharePoint installed on it. So you got, similarly, you got a lot of images. Now all of these are images that you have, right? These are images that will be helpful for you to deploy and then save a lot of time. You can also create client-based operating systems. So now when we click on it, then you'll get the whole list of operating systems that you have for that one. The flavors available
Mhm.
inside that. Okay, I'll just go ahead and select Windows Server 2012 here and say create. Right? Alright, now it gives and asks me, so what is the name of the machine that you want? I'll still say GUR. Follow the naming standards, let's say VM or a web server 01. Select the kind of disk that you want. Do you want a hard disk drive or a solid state disk? And then give the username. I'm just selecting that and give a complex password. Now this thing, it does not accept your regular username. So it does not accept your administrator like that. It doesn't even accept root. Yeah, look at that. You'll get a error message right then. These usernames are not allowed, right? So you have to pick up something that does not exist, or that's not so common. Root and administrator are common ones. Even admin is not allowed. Right, so I'll then pick up my existing resource group, which I already have created for this lab purpose, Gurgaon, and then I'm selecting West India for this. And if you already have a license from Microsoft, you can say yes, and then proceed forward. And later on, you'll be asked for the license key. But since we don't have it, just say no, and then our billing will then happen accordingly.
So the license keys, so we need to have the license separately purchased?
No, because I've selected no here, that means I do not have
Uh-huh.
a license. If I have a
Okay,
license, I'll say yes. If I do not have a
okay,
license and say no, the cost of running my VM will include the license costs. If I say yes,
okay,
I can then put my MSDN licenses, or I can then, whatever enterprise agreements or core CAL agreements that I had with Microsoft, I can use them moving forward.
okay. And another question, like in AWS, if we choose different operating system, there is some cost associated with that. So here, for a free subscription, can we install all the operating systems under Windows, or is there any additions that goes with the cost?
You can install anything here. The limitation in
All free here.
AWS is different from the limitation in Azure. In AWS,
Okay.
you have the limitation for the hardware and the
Mhm.
specifications, but they give you unlimited time, which is close to 1 year. Here, they do not have restrictions for the resources, but they give you limitations of time.
Okay.
Now, let me go ahead and select a hardware configuration. So there's DS1 V2, DS2 V2, DS11. So these are all standard names, right? So with DS1 V2, you get 1 core and 3.5 GB RAM. With DS2 V2, you'd get 2 cores and 7 GB RAM, etc. And a lot of others. So if you click on View All, you will see all the hardware configurations that are available in West India. All regions may not have all kind of resources. There may be machines with 128 GB RAM in East US, but may not be available in West India. So look at these. These machines, it's not available here. So all regions do not have all kinds of machines or all kinds of hardware permutation combinations. So I'll just select something that just fits me and say select that. And then this is where I can pick up my virtual network. It will show only one virtual network because I selected West India, and in West India I have only one Vnet. Rajesh, you have a question. How do we verify the service availability before we come to this point of selecting region? This is a very good question. So I can go to Google and then type that in Azure services region wise, and that will give me, let's see what I got. EN regions, no, not this one. There's a link there. Azure regions. I think this is the one. Okay, so if you go to this link, I'll just copy and paste that link in the chat for your documentation and notes purposes. So you can go to this link here and see what kind of services all is available in what region. So as far as VMs are concerned, you have everything everywhere except A8 and A11, which is high performance computing machines, which are available only in East US and couple of them. So in the blank spaces like US East 2 and in Central US it's not available. West Central US is not available. Canada East and Canada Central it's not available. There are a lot of services as well which are available in few regions, and in few other regions you don't have it available. Like let's take a look at databases. This one, Data Factory, is not available in a lot of regions. Um, right. Microsoft database for MySQL is not available in a lot of regions. So this should give you an overview of what is available in what region. And then you can pick and choose the regions as well. Let's say I don't want to look at US, I just want to see what's available in my country. Let's say India. and I can expand that and say West India, show just that. So it will show just that to me, right? Hope that answers your question and hope that helps, Rajesh. Absolutely, billing is different from every region. Creating a VM of a certain spec in West India and then creating the VM of the exact same spec in a different region called Singapore, the billing will be different because of the tax differences, the real estate costs, electricity, internet billing costs. You will have the billing costs different in different regions. So I select my network and then I select the subnet in which I want to put this guy in. Yeah, I want a public IP address. If you don't want a public IP address, you can just say none, and then you'll put them behind a firewall. Firewall is nothing but a security group, and then I'll have port number 3389 open. You got extensions. This is an interesting thing which Amazon Web Services does not have. You can have add extensions. That means when the machine boots up from the image, you can have this agent installed on that machine. And let's say I want to install something like Windows, let's say my anti-malware. Where is that? Yeah, I want to install Windows anti-malware when the machine boots up from the image and gets into my repository. I will just go ahead and select that and say okay. That means that when my machine boots up, Microsoft anti-malware will be automatically installed. There's a whole bunch of options we have here. You can pick and choose whatever you want, but let's say the application that you want is not listed in this list. You can select this one, custom script extension, and then write your own script here. And then once you've written the script on your computer, you can browse it to this file. You select a file, click on this, and it will take you there, right? So you can then go ahead and pick and choose your file in which you have written down the script that will install things on your computer. That should do it. That is for customized scripts and customized apps. Otherwise, here's a list, a very small list that will let you do that. Now, since I have it, I'll say okay, and that's something that we're gonna get installed once the machine is booting up. High availability. This is also an interesting concept in Azure as well as in AWS. Is a whole lot of discussions around that. Okay, so let's say you would like to make sure that the VMs are always up and running, regardless of what happens. Azure can just go ahead and patch your virtual machines, not your virtual machine, but at least the host and the hypervisor sitting on it. So when you click on create, you got two of these things. One is a fault domain, and other is an update domain. So we need to understand these. So in Microsoft data centers, you have racks and racks, a whole train of racks, right? And they are as big as, and each of those smaller versions of the data centers are closest to a container, a ship container. That's how big your the smallest data center will be. There could also be any unplanned hardware events. For example, the power failure can happen. The physical machine on which your virtual machines are sitting, they can also break, right? So any unplanned event is called as a fault. So at that time, Azure platform predicts that hardware or any component that is associated with your physical platform is about to fail. And when the platform predicts that failure, it will issue an unplanned hardware maintenance event to another machine so that a live migration then happens. So Azure uses the live migration to move the VM from the faulty hardware to a healthy physical machine. So the live migration, during that process, your VM will be paused for a very short time. So at that time you may have memory and any open connections, open files, network connections. They are all maintained, but performance might be reduced before or after the event. So for a very short time, the VM will experience a downtime. And these are unplanned events or any unexpected downtime, which rarely happens when the hardware or the physical infrastructure is actually faulted in some way. That may include network failures or disk failures or rack level failures. So when that happens, Microsoft Azure automatically migrates and heals your VM to a healthy VM. The other part is update domains, and these are more planned, and these are like any periodic updates made by Microsoft to the underlying Azure platform to improve the overall posture, reliability, performance, and security of the platform. And most of these updates are performed without any impact upon your virtual machines. Now, when the Azure VM attempts to use or actually gets impacted by that, you will still have a V2V, a live V2V happening there. So each VM in your availability set is assigned an update domain and a fault domain. So a fault domain is a unplanned event, whereas an update domain is a planned event. When you assign a number next to it, is all about the number of racks that it may want to go through. So if you have two racks for a fault domain, the V2V will happen between the two racks. And same thing goes for the update domains. So I'll say okay here. This whole thing is called as an availability set or an availability zones in AWS. Here, whether you want to monitor the machine or not, you want the operating system to be monitored, just say yes. And do you want, where do you want to keep your diagnostics information? You keep that in a separate storage account. And just say okay. And it will just validate all of that, the options that you have selected are right or not. And once that is done, the OK button will be changed to purchase. Check that box and click on purchase. Give it some time and it should go ahead and create a VM in Azure. So go to my virtual machine section. I already have 4 machines here, but I can click on refresh and then it should get populated in my screen here. Any questions you have for me so far?
So I have one question. While you are deploying, while you selected the image from the Windows Server operating system, it was associated with some price. Is that price going to be reduced from your credits here, or for this 1 month trial, we can ignore those price values?
Number one, the price that you see is not an accurate number. It is an estimated number. Number two,
Okay.
since we are using a free trial version of it, you get 13,300 rupees in your account. And
Mm-hmm.
whatever you start building, infrastructure that you build will be deducted on pro rata basis. So when the amount says 14,000 rupees, it is not deducting 14,000 rupees from your account. It will be deducted on pro rata basis based on the number of hours that your machine is on and up and running. Any questions further?
Okay. The reason I asked is I saw the number 13,300 credits free. Okay. So there were few of the images which are tagged more than 13,000 when we are selecting the OS image, DS1 and DS2, these things. So what in case if I select something which is greater than 13,000?
Well, that's exactly what I was saying, that the amount that is deducted from your kitty is on pro rata basis. It is not directly getting, that is the pricing is for the whole month, not for the minute.
Okay, that is for 30 days. Okay.
That is for the whole month, yes.
Okay, got it. So it will be calculated per the number of hours that I am using that particular VM.
Right.
Okay.
So now my VM is up and running here, web server 01, and now I can go ahead and connect to it, stop this machine, take an image by clicking on capture, move it to a different resource group or even to a different subscription account, go ahead and delete it, or click on refresh to get the latest values. It is created in a resource group, the name of which is that. Status creating, physical location is West India. I'm using a free trial subscription. It's a Windows machine. It's got 2 cores and 7 GB RAM and adds your public IP address. A lot of other options are out here which I would like you to go ahead and explore. You got the availability set. You can add multiple disks to this VM, right? Just click on edit and you can add a data disk. Add some more extensions. We just added one extension here, which is Microsoft antivirus. You can have network interfaces. So I've got a private IP and a public IP here. The size of the VM is here. You can of course go ahead and modify that later on, right? So you can take the backup of the VM. Um, the properties of the VM are right here, so you'll see the list of all options that you have as far as the VM is concerned. Um, it's minutes. I didn't get the question, Rajesh. Are you talking about the billing? So you got locks as well here. You just click on locks, and this is just to protect your VM from accidental deletion. So you can just click on this add and give it a name, and then lock type. If I say delete, nobody will be able to protect from accidental deletion. Once you delete and say okay, refresh it, right, and then nobody will be able to delete this VM, right? So I can just say right click and delete and say yes, right? It failed to delete because there is a lock out there. Failed to delete the VM because there is a lock. So this is just protecting the VM from accidental deletion. You can go ahead and remove that if you just have to ever delete that VM. Make sure that the lock isn't there. But it's always a good idea to um, lock your VMs. There are lots of other options that are self-explanatory here. I would like you to go ahead and take a look at them and let me know if you have any questions for this one. But then since the VM is running, I can definitely connect to it. When I click on connect, what I get is an RDP file, and click on it and say connect again, and that takes me to the user ID and password screen, and I type in my user ID and password here and say okay. There you go, my VM is ready. Any questions you have for me? So your VM is up and running quick.
Good so far.
Awesome. Rajesh, any questions? Why you say image? Is it a snapshot? Let's take a look at that. It says capture. It's an image. Look at that. It's an image. So you can deploy multiple images. It's an image created from that image won't start. See this? It's an image, not a snapshot. Snapshots are different from images. Capture is always about imaging. Super. Okay, so let's go talk about some more things tomorrow, and I'll catch up at the same time. Hello. Uh, so I think audio got disconnected. Back again. I was saying that let's catch up tomorrow, and
I can hear you, Anand.
yeah, I was disconnected for a while. Let's go ahead and catch up tomorrow since we spoke about Vnets and virtual machines today. We'll pick up new subject tomorrow. Okay.
Mhm. Yeah, thank you.
Parallelly, we'll also do PowerShell as we move on through the sessions. We should also be aware of how to do the same thing with PowerShell. So probably let's pick up PowerShell tomorrow, um, and try to build VNets with PowerShell. Okay,
Okay,
great.
right.
Thanks for your time. Thank you. Bye bye.
Thank you.
Bye Rajesh. Bye Asgar.